them that whoever would venture to deprive the sorceress of sight should have from her a safeguard against the talons of the hawks and kites, and a letter of protection against the guns, crossbows, longbows, and birdlime of the fowlers. There was among them a swallow who had made her nest against a beam of the royal palace, and who hated the sorceress because, when making her accursed conjurations, she had several times driven her out of the chamber with her fumigations, for which reason, partly out of a desire of revenge, and partly to gain the reward that the bird promised, she offered herself to perform the service. So away she flew like lightning to the city, and entering the palace, found the fairy lying on a couch, with 2 damsels fanning her. Then the swallow came, and alighting directly over the fairy, pecked out her eyes, whereupon the fairy, thus seeing night at midday, knew that by this closing of the custom-house the merchandise of the kingdom was all lost, and uttering yells as of a condemned soul, she abandoned the sceptre and went off to hide herself in a certain cave, where she knocked her head continually against the wall, until at length she ended her days. When the sorceress was gone, the councillors sent ambassadors to the king, praying him to come back to his castle, since the blinding of the sorceress had caused him to see this happy day. And at the same time they arrived came also Miuccio, who, by the bird's direction, said to the king, "I have served you to the best of my power. The sorceress is blinded, the kingdom is yours. Wherefore, if I deserve recompense for this service, I wish for no other than to be left to my ill fortune, without being again exposed to these dangers." But the king, embracing him with great affection, bade him put on his cap and sit beside him. And how the queen was enraged at this, Heaven knows, for by the bow of many colours that appeared in her face might be known the wind of the storm that was brewing in her heart against poor Miuccio. Not far from this castle lived a most ferocious dragon, who was born the same hour with the queen, and the astrologers, being called by her father to astrologize on this event, said that his daughter would be safe as long as the dragon was safe, and that when one died, the other would of necessity die also. One thing alone could bring back the queen to life, and that was to anoint her temples, chest, nostrils, and pulse with the blood of the same dragon. Now the queen, knowing the strength and fury of this animal, resolved to send Miuccio into his claws, well assured that the beast would make but a mouthful of him, and that he would be like a strawberry in the throat of a bear. So turning to the king, she said, "Upon my word, this Miuccio is the treasure of your house, and you would be ungrateful indeed if you did not love him, especially as he had expressed his desire to kill the dragon, who, though he is my brother, is nevertheless your enemy, and I care more for a hair of your head than for 100 brothers." The king, who hated the dragon mortally, and knew not how to remove him out of his sight, instantly called Miuccio and said to him, "I know that you can put your hand to whatever you will. Therefore, as you have done so much, grant me yet another pleasure, and then turn me whithersoever you will. Go this very instant and kill the dragon, for you will do me a singular service, and I will reward you well for it." Miuccio, at these words, was near losing his senses, and as soon as he was able to speak, he said to the king, "Alas, what a headache have you given me by your continually teasing! Is my life a black goatskin rug that you are for ever wearing it away thus? This is not a pared pear ready to drop into one's mouth, but a dragon that tears with his claws, breaks to pieces with his head, crushes with his tail, crunches with his teeth, poisons with his eyes, and kills with his breath. Wherefore do you want to send me to death? Is this the sinecure you gave me for having given you a kingdom? Who is the wicked soul that has set this die on the table? What son of perdition has taught you these capers and put these words into your mouth?" Then the king, who, although he let himself be tossed to and fro as light as a ball, was firmer than a rock in keeping to what he had once said, stamped with his feet and exclaimed, "After all you have done, do you fail at the last? But no more words. Go, rid my kingdom of this plague, unless you would have me rid you of life." Poor Miuccio, who thus received 1 minute a favour, at another a threat, now a pat on the face, and now a kick, now a kind word and now a cruel one, reflected how mutable court fortune is, and would fain have been without the acquaintance of the king. But knowing that to reply to great men is a folly, and like plucking a lion by the beard, he withdrew, cursing his fate, which had led him to the court only to curtail the days of his life. And as he was sitting on one of the doorsteps with his head between his knees, washing his shoes with his tears and warming the ground with his sighs, behold, the bird came flying with a plant in her beak, and throwing it to him said, "Get up, Miuccio, and take courage, for you are not going to play at unload the ass with your days, but at backgammon with the life of the dragon. Take this plant, and when you come to the cave of that horrid animal, throw it in, and instantly such a drowsiness will come over him that he will fall fast asleep. Whereupon, nicking and sticking him with a good knife, you may soon make an end of him. Then come away, for things will turn out better than you think." "Enough!" cried Miuccio. "I know what I carry under my belt. We have more time than money, and he who has time has life." So saying, he got up, and sticking a pruning knife in his belt and taking the plant, he went his way to the dragon's cave, which was under a mountain of such goodly growth that the 3 mountains that were steps to the giants would not have reached up to its waist. When he came there, he threw the plant into the cave, and instantly a deep sleep laid hold on the dragon, and Miuccio began to cut him in pieces. Now just at the time that he was busied thus, the queen felt a cutting pain at her heart, and seeing herself brought to a bad pass, she perceived her error in having purchased death with ready money. So she called her stepson and told him what the astrologers had predicted, how her life depended on that of the dragon, and how she feared that Miuccio had killed him, for she felt herself gradually sliding away. Then the king replied, "If you knew that the life of the dragon was the prop of your life and the root of your days, why did you make me send Miuccio? Who is in fault? You must have done yourself the mischief, and you must suffer for it. You have broken the glass, and you may pay the cost." And the queen answered, "I never thought that such a stripling could have the skill and strength to overflow an animal which made nothing of an army, and I expected that he would have left his rags there. But since I reckoned without my host, and the bark of my projects is gone out of its course, do me one kindness if you love me. When I am dead, take a sponge dipped in the blood of this dragon, and anoint with it all the extremities of my body before you bury me." "That is but a small thing for the love I bear you," replied the king, "and if the blood of the dragon is not enough, I will add my own to give you satisfaction." The queen was about to thank him, but the breath left her with the speech, for just then Miuccio had made an end of scoring the dragon. No sooner had Miuccio come into the king's presence with the news of what he had done, than the king ordered him to go back for the dragon's blood. But being curious to see the deed done by Miuccio's hand, he followed him. And as Miuccio was going out of the palace gate, the bird met him and said, "Whither are you going?" And Miuccio answered, "I am going whither the king sends me. He makes me fly backwards and forwards like a shuttle, and never lets me rest an hour." "What to do?" said the bird. "To fetch the blood of the dragon," said Miuccio. And the bird replied, "Ah, wretched youth, this dragon's blood will be bull's blood to you and make you burst, for this blood will cause to spring up again the evil seed of all your misfortunes. The queen is continually exposing you to new dangers that you may lose your life. And the king, who lets this odious creature put the pack saddle on him, orders you, like a castaway, to endanger your person, which is his own flesh and blood, and a shoot of his stem. But the wretched man does not know you, though the inborn affection he bears you should have betrayed your kindred. Moreover, the services you have rendered the king, and the gain to himself of so handsome a son and heir, ought to obtain favour for unhappy Porziella, your mother, who has now for 14 years been buried alive in a garret, where is seen a temple of beauty built up within a little chamber." While the fairy was thus speaking, the king, who had heard every word, stepped forward to learn the truth of the matter better, and finding that Miuccio was his own and Porziella's son, and that Porziella was still alive in the garret, he instantly gave orders that she should be set free and brought before him. And when he saw her looking more beautiful than ever, owing to the care taken of her by the bird, He embraced her with the greatest affection, and was never satisfied